All right, let's see what happens here.
Die stream wird ab Wikipedia.
What?
So this is working again because now we're using my phone data.
We hope so.
No, it's definitely working.
All right, let's take a look.
Jody's gonna check to make sure.
Got one thumbs up. Oh my God! Welcome back. Yes. Wow. Can you believe that, Mike Perea? I am so happy that you're still here, my friend. Jeez.
So we're gonna try to get past the fact that that just happened, and we want to hear in the sidebar not what your first camera was. Maybe tell us what your first camera is, but it also has to be attached to a question. So question camera gear. I don't know.
Well, the question that I had, so say you've got your first camera, right?
Yeah.
Those images, looking back at them, are probably terrible. They're probably really funny.
They were so good.
Yeah, here's probably like, great, right?
When I came out of my mom, I just was like, ding, 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 taking pictures. Yeah.
But
that's how I did it.
So I guess for me, like one of the first times that I was able to put together what I thought were the best images that I had from my first camera was to print these little 5x8s and to send them to friends and family. And looking back at that, like creating photo albums and like making your first portfolio, I think it's quite funny, out of Coke, to look back at those images to what you're producing now. And, you know, if you guys still have some of those images, or, you know, what do you feel is the progression stream from those first images to what you're shooting now? Is it because of gear, or is it because of experience?
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, I think that those old photos are endearing. When I look back at my original photos, I think that I was taking more pictures and I maybe had more of a curious eye. I was just trying to take pictures. I was just trying to capture things around. Whereas now I'm like, no, that's not perfect. I won't even take a picture. No, that's not perfect. I won't even take a picture.
Right.
So I think that there is some redeeming quality to old gear, an old eye or a new eye to photography versus the new stuff. But it's definitely a combination. It's just practice. If you gave me that same old Kodak camera from like when I was 12 years old, 13 years old, yes, the photos are going to improve because of experience. But the quality is not going to improve because I still don't know. And because I can't do long exposure with that. I can't do shallow depth of field. So I think it's understanding what gear you need and how to use it best. Because if you were to throw a Kodak camera in my hands, I'd be able to make a couple cool photos. But to be honest, I'd have a hard time with it because I know how to use my gear to my advantage.
Yeah, at this stage. One of the things that I find interesting looking back at those old portfolios from way back is capturing more than just like sunrise or sunset or good light. It was almost like a photo diary, sort of like shots of setting up camp or like sitting on the top of my car in British Columbia in the mountains, middle of the day, stuff like trying to shoot different wildlife. Even if the photo is terrible and like a little blurry, it's like, look, I saw a black bear, I got a photo of it. Yeah. You know, something like that. It was more of like proving the experience to friends and family. Yeah. Whereas now it's trying to capture things that I can sell or that I think the wider audience will like, or trying to get the best balance of that best light with the right composition and location, etc. So I find that really interesting from like sort of starting at the beginning for us versus where we're at now. But I know a lot of people start with photography even like right now, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I was looking at like a blog post, because when you're writing blog posts, you're trying to do SEO, search engine optimization, linking back to old posts you did, and it kind of gives them a bit of a boost. And I was looking for something to search for Banff National Park. And so I searched the keyword on my website and I found an article from, it must have been more than 7 years ago or something like that. And it was photos of black bears in Banff National Park. And the photos were like, you could just see like, it was like a dot on the screen, just a tiny little dot. And I remember being so proud of that image. I get a photo of a black bear.
Mine.
No, it'd just be like garbage.
You got a couple of great comments here about like old Nikon cameras and using old lenses now on Micro Four Thirds.
You have to read them or they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just looking at some of this stuff now. But okay, let's talk about travel. So this whole live stream idea, it's the first one on the channel. And this channel I created in 2007, which is a hell of a long time ago. And I built this channel actually originally in Costa Rica. And if you go back to my first video, it's quite bad. It's actually a photo slideshow of all of those sort of first images that I had back in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Panama in that year that I lived there. And I think YouTube has obviously grown huge in the last like 2 years, 3 years, and encompassing a lot more of a wider audience. But then it was, as still is, kind of an idea of how to share our experience while traveling with you guys and with friends and family back home. And one of the things that we were talking about recently was, if you had the choice, would you choose travel or photography? And both Brendan and I would choose travel, because maybe it's because we started traveling, right? Or was travel an inspiration for the photography? That's
so. What do you answer in the comments on the side so we can see what you guys think?
Does travel inspire your photography? Or
what would you choose, travel or photography, if you have to pick? For me, I said travel if I had to pick between the two, because I guess it comes to deal with my background in photography. And I started traveling just because I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I started shooting photography because I really, really, really wanted to keep traveling. And editors were like, Brendan, we need you to shoot pictures for your travel stories, and they need to be better than what you're shooting. So I learned photography. And I think that the whole reason that I started shooting photography was to keep traveling. And these days, photography is definitely like up here and travel's like below it. But I think if you were to take one of the two away, I'd have to stop taking pictures. But I think that if you did take travel away and I wasn't given an option, I would still take pictures, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of flows into the next question that I was thinking too, is if you are in one place, say you can't travel anymore, and you're sort of living in a city or you're living in a small town, what would inspire you to continue to get out to travel? I think for me, being Canadian, I'm very inspired by the Four Seasons, by the change.
Hotel chain?
No, by the change in temperature, and then the change in environment and landscape. And there's so much difference in the amount of light in the winter versus in the summer. And you can really get inspired a lot by that in Canada. Mind you, if you live in like the Sahara Desert, might be a little bit different Four Seasons wise. But what would inspire you is to say you couldn't choose travel, you had to choose photography. Mm-hmm. What would inspire you then to shoot photos if you weren't able to travel?
It depends where I was. Okay. Obviously, like, I think if you're in Canada or Norway, if you're stuck in one place that's really epic and cool, it's easy to shoot pictures. It's easy to be inspired because you can just go out into your backyard and there's epic stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I think that I would have to try to take more of an artistic angle at things. I'd have to try to give myself photo challenges. Like I'd want to photograph. One great example is in my home, no, not my hometown, but in a town next to my hometown, a guy, a photographer, went out and he shot a portrait of every single person in the town. It's like a town of 1,000 people, and he shot a photo of every single person in town. And I think I'd try to do stuff like that, and maybe like a project where I'd get them in their work environment or something like that. I think I'd have to give myself projects, assignments. I'd try to do like 365 days of photo challenges. I think challenges, or just be like, I'm going to shoot one lens and one lens only for an entire 3 months.
Yeah, or shoot only black and white. You know, shoot only your local wildlife, something like that.
I try to turn it into like an art project. Like I want to create 10 images from this year or this month or whatever. You're doing only this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think photo essays are kind of interesting too. If there's somebody you know, or somebody who does sort of a really interesting job within your community and they're willing to be photographed, you could almost try and set up like a selection of 10 images of whatever that person is doing or what it is their story is, and try and tie that into more of like a photo essay. So along with challenges, you know, we want to hear from you guys. What keeps you inspired to create and take photos within your own community in your hometown? We've got somebody from Chicago who's focusing on street photography. That's what we were doing a little bit of here in Tbilisi in Georgia. And weren't you saying something about you'd almost rather start street photography in a new location to kind of get your bearings?
Yeah, so like I almost have like, and it hasn't been the case for years because I haven't spent this much time somewhere, but I almost have a formula I run when I shoot a new destination. And then I arrive and right away, the very first day I'm there or the second day or the first couple days, I just go out with one prime lens and I go out and shoot street photography, well, everything's still really exciting to me. Like, for example, the building we live in, there's these like 4 old ladies that sell vegetables. And when we got here, I was like, these ladies are awesome. They're so interesting. They're so cool. Now we just like walk by them without even noticing.
Yeah, but I tried to kind of break them.
Yeah,
in
you didn't
bit.
because they hate you.
It didn't work. I was like smiling and trying my local greetings and like, buying coffee from them.
Yeah.
We even bought some vegetables.
Yeah.
And still,
they don't like us.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I think that when you have a fresh eye at something, it really is helpful for your street photography, especially. But I think you can give yourself fresh eyes by giving yourself those challenges.
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
saying, I'm going to do this, then you have fresh eyes.
Yeah, we got somebody commenting, Lee Pelling from London, England, going into the city to do cityscape shots and architecture. We've seen a lot of architecture stuff from Alan Palander of Toronto, and you were even shooting a bit of architecture at that church.
Yeah,
like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I like a little bit of architecture mixed in with the travel stuff.
Yeah, if you live in a city, I mean, there's definitely a lot to be said about different architecture shots for sure.
Lee also says he likes the underground networks. What's your favorite underground station in London?
Oh man, I've only been to London a few times. Some of them are so like down. No, I'm talking about names. I don't know many of the names.
Tooting Station.
I can just name
by far. Tooting Station and Shepherd's Bush.
Yeah.
Nice. Shepherd's Bush is a good one. Yeah. Cockbusters is like, that's obviously funny, but Shepherd's Bush is just genius. Yeah.
All 3 of them are too. John Leo says Cockbusters as well.
John agrees with Cockbusters.
And Lee.
See, so there's Lee, but see, that's the thing. Cockbusters is the obvious one. Yeah. And they say it all the time because it's like, this is the Victoria Line Station, the Cockbusters. And you're like, oh, Victoria's on her way to Cockbusters. It's like, Shepherd's Bush is just less.
That's pretty good. And Tooting is kind of like childish humor, but I
giggle every time I hear Tooting.
It's amazing that you know 3 of those off the top of your head.
Yeah, there's way more.
Yeah,
I just sit on the underground pointing and laughing at all the stations.
The last time I was in London was for WTM, which is the World Travel Market Conference, and I stayed with an Australian buddy of mine who was living on the other side, and it took like an hour and a half to get across the tube stations to get to the conference center. And I spent so much money on the little card, the blue one, the Oyster card.
Why is it even called an Oyster card? Because oysters live underground?
In water?
I don't get it. Right. Why is it called an Oyster card? It has nothing. What about London says, oh, we need oysters?
Yeah. By the way, Jodie says the Victoria Line doesn't go to Cockbusters.
Well, whatever. Whatever.
We got our fact checker in the back here.
I'm Jodie. I used to live in London town and eat crumpets.
All right, let's get it back on track. I want to talk a little bit more about traveling as well. I did see Mike Perea, who is one of the photographers in the Facebook community.
He's a legend.
Awesome guy. I hope you're watching this, Mike. You rock. He said that he would choose travel because travel has inspired his photography. I agree with that 100%. I still think that as sort of an amateur, semi-professional photographer, travel is what inspires my photography. It's very challenging for me to get out and shoot in a place that I've already been to, for a month or more. I find it difficult, so I need to create those challenges for myself for sure. But when I start going to a new place, like the first time I went to Morocco, just absolutely shutter happy, like going around the old town in Marrakesh, and I felt like photographing everything.
How many times did you get yelled at for taking pictures?
Yeah, they weren't too happy about it. But
did you get rocks thrown at you ever?
No.
It happens.
That happened to you.
Yeah. Not to me, but it happens to people a lot. Yeah.
That's
the question. That's the sound you make when you're reading a question. You gotta go
So is there any other conferences like ITB worth visiting? Yeah, WTM, I think. There really only are like 2 conferences that I go to.
It really depends on what you do though. Like for us, for travel, yes, ITB and WTM. But if you're a photographer, there's also Photokina. If you're a wedding photographer, there's the one that's in Vegas, wedding photographers, whatever it is. There's tons of them. You just have to figure them out. And sometimes the smaller ones are actually even better because you can actually get more FaceTime with important people.
Yeah.
There's tons and tons. T-Bex, if you're into travel blogging, although I hate T-Bex. So yeah.
T-Bex is a North American thing.
Yeah, but T-Bex is like right now there's currently one in the Czech Republic.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
literally today there's one.
I don't think we should really promote T-Bex.
No, because they suck.
Yeah. So I don't really want to turn this into a Q&A just yet. I want to talk a little bit more about how like our travel experience has inspired the photography, but in a way that we're still traveling. Like both of us live completely nomadic, and that's a decision that we made by choice. We want to be doing this and living this lifestyle. No, repetitive.
Nobody's held a gun to our head.
No comment.
Like, you guys have to travel.
No. But
it's my choice.
There's a lot of people that would rather be based somewhere than travel in between. So I think that this nomadic lifestyle keeps me inspired to create videos on YouTube, to be creating content, and that travel is the #1 inspiration for me. So that's why it's almost easier when I'm consistently traveling to find new ideas for videos, to be able to create content photography-wise and videography-wise to share it here on the channel. So my question is, how long have you been nomadic, and why?
I've been nomadic. Coming April, it'll be 9 years. Nomadic. 9 years. Mid-August. Did I say April?
I don't know.
I don't remember what I said. I've been drinking too much Coke Zero. Mid-August, I hit 9 years of nomadic travel. And over those 9 years, the longest I ever stayed anywhere was I stayed in Colombia off and on-ish for 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
And that was because I was out of money. And I stayed in Mali in like West Africa for like almost 6 months. And again, that was because I was out of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been like a change here in Tbilisi for a whole month, and then Greece for 2 months.
Yeah, which is kind of how it's going though.
Progress. Like, soon I'll be like, I'm going to progress that travel every day, travel slower, and then soon I'll just be an old man in a rocking chair.
Yeah, right.
Sitting on my lawn, yelling at kids to get off it.
6 months in one place.
Yeah.
We got Richard Kirby out of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Asking how far in advance do you plan trips, and do you keep windows open for last minute plans? So I'm going to take that one first. Because I have a German girlfriend, I've started planning trips a good year in advance. She's listening to this in the background. So I would say, Rich, that I've been planned right now up until like next January, and we're in July now, so it's about 7 months of plans. And do I keep windows open for last minute plans? Not really. I think I should, because it is relatively often that I get questions to do last minute jobs. Within the travel industry, especially. However, you know, it's already inconsistent enough. So say if you keep a window open a month from now and it doesn't fill, then, you know, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? If you've got no Airbnb booked and it's August in Europe, it might be difficult to fill that space because it's so busy. So that's a tough one. It's a bit of a balance. How would you answer that?
I can't really answer that properly because my new plan has changed. So like 5 years ago, I was just traveling like a madman, and I wasn't leaving any available space for projects because I wanted to do only things for me. I wanted to travel. I wanted to explore. And so I didn't book things in advance, but I was very narrow focused. Like, I'm going to travel Africa for 2 years. I'm going to travel South America for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I was just going. And I had like a general plan, but no like bookings. And then this past year, it was like, okay, I'm going to base myself in this area and then travel, but then leave spots open for assignments. And then the plan now going forward is Jodie and I are actually planned all the way until March
next year.
In terms of like basically, in fact, everything up until Christmas this year is already booked in terms of hotels and accommodation. We're already booked. But within that schedule, there is the opportunity to have last minute projects because this year we've put time in our schedule to not move as much. So even in Georgia, we've been here in Georgia for like 3 weeks. If a client called and said, hey, we need you to go to Antarctica for 10 days. Can you fly to Ushuaia and get on a boat? I would have had the availability to do that. Yeah. And over the the rest of my life, I hope. The plan is to kind of have bases that last a month, 2 months, or 3 months, and have small projects within those places, and then have photo tours and adventures within those places or near those places, and then have space available that if somebody needs something, I can go.
The availability at the same time to take those last minute jobs, Rich, if they come up.
My first 5 years, I turned down hundreds of projects. Because I was stubborn.
Because you were traveling.
And I was stubborn about it. I was like, no, I'm in Nigeria, and I need to be in Nigeria right now.
Yeah, right. even though you were broke.
Even though I was broke, because I didn't care about money. And I still don't really care about money, but it was like I did not care about making money. I had my travel goals, and they were more important.
Yeah, interesting. So I had a goal for a very long time to hit every country in North America, and sorry, the Americas in general, and I made it. Just so you know, but
well, so it took me 20 years, but I made it all the way down to Mexico.
Got out of Oshawa, Ontario, made it down. But at that time, I remember thinking that there was nothing sort of going to get in the way of that. It wasn't going to be another job. It wasn't going to be anything else. It was like, right now, I've got this 4-month space available. I'm going to go up to Suriname, French Guiana,
Did you count the Caribbean?
No.
Only mainland, so you still got work to do.
Yeah, still got work to do.
Sorry, brah.
Yeah, I got a few Caribbean islands, but still got work to do. Got Ted Rundle from Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, which is where I grew up. Awesome to see you watching this. Yeah, true. That's funny. Yeah. And Ted Rundle says, do you ever go indoors like museums and art galleries, or do you always shoot outdoors? You want to take that one?
I go into museums a lot. No, I don't. No, I go into museums. The thing is, I like history, but I like it when it's interactive and when it moves. So I like hearing it from a guide, or I like hearing it from locals, or I like hearing it from documentaries or movies or reading about it. I'm not a big art guy, and I'm not a big history still guy. Like, hey, this is a sword from when we colonized Africa. I don't really care about that stuff. I go into buildings to take pictures. Museums, for example, in London, there's some great buildings to take photos of on the inside. And sometimes I go through museums if I'm interested, but I'll whip through and not take pictures. But yeah, I'm not a museum guy unless it's really, really interactive and strange.
So I can answer that, Ted. I have done a couple of jobs for museums in different cities across Europe, and they're just jobs. It's like getting a good angle with a wide angle lens. It's almost like architecture photography, really.
No, it is.
Yeah. So I think both of the answers to that, if you look at our Instagram feeds or our YouTube videos, is no, we don't really shoot indoors at all. It's 98% outdoors for sure.
It should also be noted, though, that just because you don't see something on Instagram or on the YouTube channel doesn't mean we didn't take it. You know how many times I get comments from people saying, oh my God, why didn't you take a photo of that bridge? And I'm like, I did. I just didn't want to share it with you guys. Or like, why didn't you take pictures of the indoors? It's so beautiful. And I'm like, I usually have. I just don't always share everything.
Yeah, the amount of images that we've taken that don't see the light of social media is extreme. Like, it's very, very high.
Yeah, to give you an example, like, we're in Georgia for 3 weeks. I've probably taken, I know how many pictures I've taken because I just went through them, or kept images. I've kept 160 images from Georgia.
Edited.
Edited and kept. Like, those are keepers. And that's a lot for one country. I think from Georgia, I'll probably share 7 to 10 images. You know, so that gives you a bit of an idea. It's like what you see is maybe 5% of what we shoot.
So this is quickly turning into a Q&A, which I expected. I was going to sort of leave that at the end. And,
there's a new video from Brendan Manson.
Nice.
Notification squad.
Awesome. So if you're watching this, don't leave to go watch Brendan's video. Stay here.
We're down to 63.
Yeah, right.
61. 42. Oh, where are you guys going?
All right. So we got about just over 20 minutes, not including the first video.
You're using so much of my data right now.
Yeah, probably using all the data, which is awesome. So what do we got? Let's turn it into a bit of a Q&A.
Okay. Q&A styles.
Did you like Svaneti, which is part of Georgia here? And will you go to Martvili Canyon? So I think that's from a Georgian viewer, which is awesome. We really have been enjoying your country. Yes, Svaneti was incredible. Ushkuli was really, really good.
Yeah, it was unreal. Yeah, it really was.
And Brendan's vlog about that just went up is about the second day, I think, when we left. And my vlog about Ushkuli will go up tomorrow at the regular time on Sunday. So be sure to check that out. Will we go to the Martvili Canyon? I don't think so. No.
The thing about our time in Georgia in general is that we're here for 3 weeks, which seems like a ton of time. It seems like enough time to see the entire country. But we're only doing a couple trips because the whole point of this month is to not travel as hard and to kind of focus on a couple things and to decide if we maybe want to come back to Georgia at some point and see other things. So we can't see everything. And as much as we'd like to, we can't see everything. So Svaneti was amazing. We'd like to see other parts like the wine growing region. We'd like to see the cliffside dwellings, the cave dwellings. We'd like to see the caves, the Prometheus caves. We'd like to see, there's a ton of stuff we'd like to see. So it means we're just probably going to have to come back.
Yeah, I agree. We got a question from Lee Vivash from the UK, who started flying his drone. Is there always some ready to complain, even though I fly within the rules? Do you guys find this at the same time while traveling around the world? So I think that's about people complaining when you're flying your drone, even within the rules. Yeah, that's a tough one. I've noticed that in Germany and Switzerland and in Austria, you often get a bit of bad looks if you're flying your drone in public. The best time I find, honestly, is super early in the morning, sunrise. If you're going to fly within the rules and you don't want people to be, I don't know, concerned or coming over to you while you're flying and distracting you, just get up really early and fly at sunrise. We found that some countries like the Philippines, they love drones.
Yeah.
In India, absolutely loved it.
It's a country by country thing, and I think it also depends on how many drones are around and how people perceive nature. Because I always find it funny when I go to Germany or Switzerland, people complain about the drone every time it goes up. And there's always people like tisking it.
They don't really like it.
They're like, oh, it's making noise in nature. You're walking in nature, talking in nature, making more noise than my bloody drone. So keep it down, Germans. Sorry, that wasn't it.
Distracting
Sorry,
while you're flying.
But yeah, it's like people think it's okay to talk and make noise and to be on their cell phones and have cell phone notifications. But 1 second of the drone, I think people just like to complain. And especially if you're living in the UK, I mean, like everybody's looking for something to like moan about. You just got to get over it.
First Germany and then the UK.
Yeah, like
Nellie and Jodie.
We got 191 countries left to play. Right. But it's not it. But then most countries, especially countries where that sort of technology isn't readily available, people love it. So if you take your drone to countries where, like India, you'll just have a crowd of people around you that want to watch, they want to see, because they're still really excited by it. And I actually think it's quite sad that people pretend to be annoyed or actually annoyed about these things when they should be excited. It's a flying freaking camera.
It looks amazing.
Like, it's so cool. Go
Bird's
there,
eye.
enjoy it. Look at the nature through a different angle. Don't be jealous that you can't fly.
Yeah.
And sorry, Germany and UK, I love you both, I swear.
It's funny too, because once you have the footage online, most people really love it. They're like, oh, that looks incredible. Like, I really like that angle, or how you stitch it together looks great. But when you're in the moment flying it, sometimes there's one or two people that come up and give you some grief for that.
And the funniest thing is us, for example, when we fly our drones, because we're not like beginners at this. Greg's been flying for like how many years?
Been flying for 3 years.
Yeah, and I've been flying for like 2 years. When we fly, when you're new at flying, you like tend to hover really close to you and close to the crowd, and that tends to annoy people. When Greg and I fly, we're up and we're gone, and we're like so far away that nobody knows there's a drone. Yeah. And sometimes it's so like they have no idea that when we fly the drone back, it's like, and we catch it and we shut it off and it's back, and everybody's like, oh, there was a drone up. They have no idea. So I think that if there's a bunch of people around, just try not to invade their space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's key, which is why I say to fly early in the morning.
Yeah.
We've got, what are both of your plans for trips to the UK? You're going to the UK pretty soon, right?
Let me read.
That's my reading comments.
Somebody says he paused Brendan to watch this. That's just
nice. Awesome. Yeah.
Anyway,
also ask which country is getting your taxes.
So the UK question, I'll be back in the UK with Jodie at Christmas time for 2 weeks, more than likely. Yeah, and that's the next time I'll be in the UK.
What about the Ireland trip?
Oh yeah, I almost made another like UK meme thing. I'm going back to Northern Ireland too, but I really, in my head, I don't see that as the UK. I see it as Ireland. Sorry, Republicans.
Any plans for us to travel to the UK, Nellie? I don't think so, actually. No.
Nellie doesn't like the food there.
No plans to go to the UK for me. Sorry about that. Still missing Scotland. I haven't been to Scotland. I'd really like to go there one day. And there's a ton of really good photo locations. So that will probably happen, but not until sometime in 2019 or later. It just seems like one of those places in the UK that we can, it's just right there. You know, you can
Yeah,
just
why
go
don't you
there
ever
whenever.
go? You know,
Yeah.
like the first time I went to the UK, I loved Northern Ireland. I really enjoyed Glasgow and thought Edinburgh was beautiful. And then I did not like England at all.
Yeah,
I really
the
didn't.
people.
No, it wasn't the people. It was like, it felt dreary and it felt gray and it felt boring. And yeah, it was the weather a little bit, but it was also because I was in public transport and going through like city. And then since I've been older and have more money so I can afford cars and get to the landscapes, I love being in the UK because there's so many like landscapes to shoot in the UK. It's no wonder there's so many landscape photographers there because there's just so many shots.
I like a lot of the history of the UK as well. Let's keep moving. So we got Jeff Wodniak. How can you travel with your heavy backpacks in a plane? Good question.
We cheat.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, Nellie and I travel only carry-on, and my 2 carry-on bags definitely weigh upwards of like 20 kilos. And I've found that traveling within Europe especially, and I think it's becoming more or less the norm with these online check-ins, and you get your digital boarding pass, that I don't have to go through the like the check-in with the person at the desk where they take your bags. That's normally where they would weigh your bags. I've yet to be on an international flight or a domestic flight where my carry-on bag gets weighed at the gate.
Knock on wood, bro. This is going to happen.
It may happen one day, but it hasn't happened yet.
Last time I said that, literally the next day.
Yeah, well, I'll let you guys know if that happens. Yeah. But even if it did happen, one of my carry-on bags can be sort of transverted into a check baggage if it needs to at the gate. So in the case with like Ryanair, sometimes they take one of your bags and they say, hey, we have to check this because we don't have enough space on the plane for everybody to take 2 bags. I can then say, okay, well, here, you take this one, and that can go under. But for the most part, I've been able to get away with it.
One of the cool things about Ryanair and these other budget airlines now is that they actually have an option that like the first 30 people that book it can have guaranteed in-cabin baggage. So that way they never chuck it under the bottom. It costs a little bit, but whatever.
It's like €9 though. It's really not much.
But my backpack, my carry-on bag, I haven't weighed it, but I'm guessing it's 15, 16 kilos. And Jodie and I were super concerned when we were coming to Georgia because everybody was telling us on this Ukrainian flight on the way in that they were going to check our bags. And we got to like the check-in line, or not the check-in line, like to actually board the flight. And everybody was waiting in line really politely. And there was a lady weighing the bags just going up the line. So Jodie was like, I was like, we gotta go.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, we can't skip the line because she's British and British people love queuing. And I was like, no, she's weighing bags. And Jodie was like, yeah. And she just grabs me and we cut the line right in front of her.
Nice. Did it work?
Totally, yeah.
All right, we got Randy Sist, who's been asking a couple of really good questions. I'm going to hit on 2 of them right now. So do I like video or photography more? Which one? And what do you do for medical insurance? So that's a tough one for me. I really like shooting photos and making photographs. But at the same time, I love video editing and creating videos and trying to piece together a story. And to be completely honest with you guys, I feel like I still have a ton of improvement and I can learn a lot with videography. So it's almost like a constant challenge to get better and better and better and better. And I feel that way with photography as well. But with video, it's more of a passion to really get better at creating videos. And I've been making videos for like 10 years. I had Sony Vegas so long ago.
So did I.
Did you? Yeah, nice. Like I've just been doing it for so long that it's something that it's always been a part of how I share my travel experience. And now that we've been traveling for 12 years, it's just an evolution of that process. What do you do for medical insurance? I'm insured through Allianz.
It's probably Alliance.
Yeah, Global, which is based out of Toronto, but it's actually a German company. And that's tied into my German work visa that allows me to run my business in Europe and live within the EU. So I hope that answers your questions there, Randy. Thanks for asking. Do you want to touch on what do you got for travel insurance?
I use World Nomads. I just book a whole year worth of insurance.
Yeah, I've got an annual plan as well.
The really tricky thing about insurance for us is that most insurance is based on trips and based on your home destination. So, for example, if I'm in Canada and I'm a Canadian resident, I can only get insurance up to a 180-day trip, and then I got to return home and then get a new one. World Nomads and a couple expat insurance are the only way to get around that. Exactly. And the truth is, when I'm in Canada, I'm totally uninsured. So because no expat insurance will insure you in your home country. Nobody will insure you in your home country if you're not a resident of that country.
Right. Yeah,
so I get screwed. If I go back to Canada and something happens to me, I got to go to like America, pretend it happened there. It's
Let's
dicey.
just pretend that didn't happen. Yeah, but good questions, Randy. That's a tough one, but we do both have a year coverage as non-residents anywhere, and that is good. So what do we got from Shannon? Oh, hello. Hi, Sharon. Yeah. Where do you keep most of your clothes while traveling around? That's a great question.
Usually on my body.
Do you want to tell them about the Patagonia story where I lost like a quarter of my clothes?
So Greg, I don't know if Greg told you, but he kind of touched on this. He only travels carry-on. And Greg's relatively messy, but not that bad.
Thanks.
But then the one time in Patagonia, he decided, you know what, I'm going to get organized. I'm going to put all my clothes in the drawers at the hotel. He left all of his clothes in the hotel in Patagonia, and they're there still.
Yeah, well, probably.
We'll get them next year, buddy.
Yeah, maybe. That would be nice. So I did a very silly thing, Sharon, and left about a quarter of my clothes. But it's funny that you asked, because when I travel only carry-on, I really don't have a lot of clothes. I've got one bathing suit, two pairs of shorts, one pair of jeans, one pair of like casual pants, about 6 t-shirts, probably 7 or 8 pairs of socks, one pair of running shoes, one pair of flip-flops. I have got 4 pairs of boxers.
He doesn't wear underwear.
No, I know exactly how many what clothes I have. I've got one rain jacket, one like down jacket. I don't want to go through the whole itinerary with you, but
yeah, please don't.
Thanks. This guy travels with a giant suitcase.
Yeah.
So he's got like a whole plethora of clothes.
I don't have anywhere. Like I have places I can leave stuff. Like Jodie's parents' house, I have my tent and my sleeping bag. My brother's house, I have a tent and a sleeping bag. My parents' house, I have a tent and a sleeping bag.
You just got storage.
Yeah, but only for tents and sleeping bags. And then everything else comes with me. And I wear, I actually get a couple of comments saying, Brendan, you need to change your clothes more often. But it's like I wear the same shirt every week because I only have 7 shirts. And then I just burn through shirts faster, which is actually a benefit because you always stay in style. It's not like, hey, that shirt was out of style a year ago, because my shirt in a year is literally destroyed because I wear it so much.
So one of the questions about cold countries over warm countries. So we do often shoot more in cold countries. Mm-hmm. I am a bit of a summer baby. I was a scuba diving guide for a number of years, and I love the beach, love the sun. Nellie and I lived in Spain for almost a year. So it's funny though, because I think a lot of our photography style, at least, is like remote locations and mountains and sort of big landscape, and it's taken on that theme over the last 2 years. So yeah, I think I probably shoot over 60% in colder climates, but I like winter sports as well. And a few of my jobs just this winter have been in Austria and in the German Alps as well. So what about you, warm or cold countries?
It's funny because when I started, I hated winter growing up, man. It was depressing.
We want like palm trees. We're Canadian.
Yeah, I hated it.
We want palm trees and beaches and like pineapples.
Coconut. Yeah. But when I started traveling, I didn't do a winter destination probably for the first 4 years I traveled. I remember, so I went home 2 years after my travels, and it was January, and it was +4 degrees Celsius. And I was wearing my jacket from Antarctica, and I was freezing because I hadn't seen winter in 2 years. Jeez. It was like 30 degrees everywhere I was. And then after that, I hadn't seen winter. I didn't see winter for 2 years. But the older I get, the more I appreciate the really cold destinations, the more I appreciate being able to bundle up and go and shoot. And the more I appreciate not sweating to death outside. So I'm becoming more of a cold weather guy as I become an old man.
So here's one for Brendan. What happened to the intros of your videos?
The intros are good, and I like doing them. I don't want to do them every single video because I think it starts to get a little bit repetitive. And some videos I think don't need an intro. Some of them do. The video I just posted probably does need an intro. But I just didn't have time today. The intros, the reason I started doing the intros is when you do vlog style, your vlog could be about landscape photography, but you don't actually mention landscape photography until the last last minute of a 10-minute vlog. So you get people that don't know your channel, and you they rock up and you start talking about food and you're driving and all this stuff. And everybody's going, where's the photography? It says landscape photography. And by throwing in an intro that shows the landscape photography that's coming up and talks about it a bit, it gives people that like kind of psych up for what's coming in that day. And so that's why I've done it. Some videos don't need that psych up. Others do, I think. That's why they're not on every video.
Yeah, but it is, it's a great idea. The voiceover really adds a lot to it. So good.
I'm going to become a professional voiceover artist.
Yeah, we got Dave Brett for that, though.
Landscape photography.
If you guys don't know who Dave Brett is, he's a friend of ours from the UK who, when he does voiceovers,
Travel Dave, UK.
It sounds like he wants to be David Attenborough right away, immediately. It's hilarious. So from JP, hey, Greg, love your videos. Notice that your choice of music is way better than Brendan's.
Yeah.
Can you please influence him more? P.S. Brendan love channel as well. You use Epidemic Sound?
Here's the thing about music that people don't get, that nobody gets.
Wait for it.
I do 300 videos a year. I need to find
a ton.
Some videos need 2 songs.
At least.
Some need 3 songs.
Yeah.
So on average, in a year, I have to use 500 songs. Go check your iTunes playlist and check if you have 500 songs.
And then how many of them do you actually like?
And then on top of that, go try to find 500 songs that you can use.
Cut a beat to.
And also have like no copyright infringements that you're allowed to use on YouTube. And if you can find 500 videos for me to use, or songs for me to use, send them my way. Because finding music is like, it's a never ending, like it's a job in itself. And sometimes you have to compromise because of the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you use Epidemic Sound, I believe?
Yeah, for the most part. And also some SoundCloud stuff still. Yeah.
So for music, I source through artlist.io and Soundstripe, which are 2 annual subscriptions. They're not cheap, but it gives me a massive, massive library of music to use. And we both have our different styles. So it's great that you love that music, though, Jay. Awesome. Thank you. Let's jump to another one. O'Neill Castro, Brendan, I think you're going to Cape Town in a couple months. Is Greg going with you, and what are you going to do there? I am not going with Brendan to Cape Town. However, Nellie and I are planning to visit South Africa this year, just not at the same time as you.
This year?
Yeah, it'll be the end of this year. I try and take off 2 months a year.
But when are you going then?
November, December.